What's your dream car? I asked. A Ferrari, and I'll buy it in 2023, he said. Not taking no for an answer, constantly challenging the status quo, not using your current situation as an excuse, and constantly sharpening the saw. Breaking boundaries, norms, and expectations. That is when you will have the audacity to be this confident. I'll see you when the Ferrari comes, Saurabh. If this is your first time watching, my name is Candy and I'm your host for the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to Candid with Candy. Don't forget to subscribe. I hope you enjoy. Hi, Saurabh. So nice to see you and welcome to Candid with Candy.
Thank you, Candy. Thanks for inviting me to your channel.
Where you were and where you are today, it's been a crazy journey for you. So I'm so happy that I have you on my show today because you have a very, very interesting and a very, very inspiring journey. And I know that a lot of people want to be like you. So let's get started.
Please.
Yeah, I want to go back to the beginning, right? You started working at a really young age. This is just after you finished your high school.
Yes.
And if you can let us know why you started so early and what were the circumstances that made you do what you did at that time, and what did you do?
Again, I'll take myself back to 2000 and 2001. I come from, I would say, a lower middle class family. My father was the only breadwinner for the family, and he was working in a private job, which was only giving enough for us to have our daily bread, and that's all we could really afford at that stage. The best part of our life was he got us admitted in a convent education, in a convent school, and I think that's what laid the foundation initially for us, specifically for me. So for us to give up on things, I think we started learning this at a very nascent stage, and specifically me. I started learning, well, if you don't get it, you don't get it. You move on. If you want something, you do it on your own. Don't expect your dad or your mom to do it, because eventually that's what they're stuck with. I started working in the summer vacations of my 12th grade. And my first job was actually working on a filling station, a petrol filling station, which was just, I would say, about 800 meters to 900 meters away from my place. And I used to sell petrol cards. Now, what petrol cards were, they were basically the cards I used to convince people who come in there for filling up their tanks to, fill in 200 rupees or 250 rupees in the card. And then every time when they come in, they can basically swipe the card instead of, paying hard cash. And it was difficult because at that stage, people who come to filling station and all these things, they don't really have time to swipe and do all those things and listen to what people talk about. But this was my first role in sales. The biggest trouble for me was two things. One, it was just 900 meters away from my place. So I had a lot of neighbors and dad's friends and everyone coming in there to fill in their tanks. And it was difficult for me to, face them. They would be like, what are you doing here? Are you working? If you're working, what are you working on? Those kind of things. So I used to hide. So that was the hardest part. The second hard part was obviously convincing people who don't really have time or cash to listen to my things. But I think the first thing I learned there was to disturb people when you have to make a sale.
Were people rude? And how I'm still trying to understand how you felt, right? Because I'm sure every day out of 10 customers there'd be 5 who would be rude, or
they insulted me right on my face. They abused me as well. But I think that's what you learn as a part of, my message in the very starting of this video is to every youngster and everyone who is starting off in their job. When you get insulted by people when you're selling things, that's the learning. When you get abused on your face by people when you're selling things, that is the learning. And the takeaway from there is, you don't take it to your heart. You make this as a strength. You move on to the next client, because when you touch base with clients after clients, there would be one client who will buy from you. When you are talking to people, there could be people who are troubled with their personal life, social life, professional life. There could be anything. And if they are sparing 2 minutes from there, it's for them, it may not be very necessary or even necessary at all for you, it is your commission, it is your business. So you need to understand that if they have insulted you, it's just because they're troubled with something else. So you just have to move on. So the second job I moved on was actually, and what I used to do is I used to convince people to open recurring deposit accounts in my company. The difficult part of that job was the customers. What we were dealing with is, and I particularly me, I was dealing with truck drivers, bus drivers, and then lorry drivers, those kind of things. And then secondly, what we used to do is I used to go to shops, the nearby shops, one by one, and ask them if you want to open an account paying 5 rupees each day, 10 rupees each day. The second part was the operations. The operations was I did not have a bicycle at that stage. I did not have any conveyance at all. The only thing I had really was my food. Which was absolutely free. And now, one thing also you have to understand here is when you go to a shop with your customer, even if they are your customer, you just don't go there and ask for 20 rupees, the collection of that day. Sometimes people talk to you, they want to talk to you about, sometimes they talk about your marriage, sometimes they talk about your parents, sometimes they talk about anything at all, and you have to listen to them.
I think what would have been the most important part, obviously, the conveyance and all of those difficulties, collection of the the cash itself, that was one piece of it. That was the administration part of it. It's once you
Yeah.
actually get your customers. I think what is most important and something that you learn really early is empathy, right? And putting yourself in your customers' shoes, no matter who they are. So I'm sure you had to do a lot of study yourself, because the way you grew up is not necessarily the way your customers grew up, right?
So
So can you tell us a little bit about how you would prep yourself?
I think I've studied from life. I've studied from people. All I want to say is, even if he's a truck driver or a bus driver, everyone has a story, and you never know what kind of lesson you learn from people. And that's what I learned in that entire, even till today, whenever I get a customer who is very aggravated or irate, you need to understand people are not irate and aggravated on you. And this goes to all the people who will be listening to it, or maybe today and in future. People are aggravated and irate because of a certain thing that didn't happen the way it was supposed to be.
Right.
Now, you have to understand that. And if you understand it, 99, I assure people, if you let them vent out, if you listen to them calmly, even if they give you all kind of F&Bs over the call on your face, within 30 minutes, things will settle down. And secondly, you have to admit if you don't know certain things. You have to admit your mistake if you have given wrong commitment or wrong communication.
Another point that I'd like to add is, besides empathy and listening, I think being trustworthy, right?
Mhm.
Somebody needs to believe that you're genuine.
Look, from my experience so far in 15 years, whatever we have done, there is one thing which has always, kept strengthening over the years, and that is people don't trust brand. I mean, obviously they do trust brand, but even before the brand, they trust an individual. They trust a face, a human face, and if they know that this human face is credible, it's the face is not going to cheat, they will go with you.
Next important lesson that you learned, when you eventually joined like a proper office, I think it was a call center,
Yep.
and it was a very important lesson that you learned. Can you share that with us?
Yes, so then this was a big job for me because so far I was pretty much doing all petty jobs. Now I was one of the top performers. I would say I was the top performer because there were only 7 people in the team, and I was doing the best out of them. I was selling things left, right, center, and then everyone loved it. The problem was that filled in a kind of attitude in me. I was like, well, I'm the only one who can do it. So I one night, because of some office reasons, I had a fight with my team leader. Now, when I had a fight with my team leader, I left the job without even thinking twice. The kind of financial support I needed and all that, thinking, well, I'm gonna leave. It's 1 a.m. in the night. Just drop me off home, and you will call me tomorrow morning because your sales is gonna stop, your revenue is gonna stop, your call center is gonna shut down just because Saurabh is not working with you anymore. And to the surprise of Saurabh waited for next 48 hours. Then nobody called Saurabh again. So Saurabh was like, well, I mean, I still have the attitude, but then now it has started shading down, and I think Saurabh needs the job again. So Saurabh called the office friends and was like, is the revenue doing okay? Is the sales doing okay? Is everything looking fine? People were like, yeah, I mean, nobody's missing you, to be honest. I think it's actually becoming a relief for the team leader now. So that was a lesson, and I am very glad that I learned that lesson at a very nascent stage in my life, because I can't afford to learn that lesson today. So I'm happy that I learned it 15 years back. And the lesson was, look, you could be the best performer in the world, you could be actually God who is giving life and who is giving death, but at the end of the day, everything can be replaced in this world.
Absolutely. On that note,
Mhm.
I'd like to jump right into how you began, right? You and your partner, uh, you know, um, you guys had a full-time job, which means you're working nine
Right.
hours a day. After those 9 hours, you were investing an additional 8 to 9 hours,
True.
uh, you know, to start up your own company. So that's a very inspirational story again. If you can let us in on that story.
So everything was going well. I worked in multiple companies, and then it was all running smooth and everything. But then one reason, obviously, everyone wants to be financially better. And then the second point was we were ambitious. I mean, I would say all throughout my life, I have been highly ambitious. We wanted to start a business. We had learned enough of IT, and we had learned enough of how software and outsourcing and these things work. We wanted to start a business. At least me, I can't afford to leave a job because I've got family to take care of. I've got medical expenses, my mom and dad. So at that stage, I decided that not gonna quit the job. I will continue doing my job, and then parallelly, I will open the company too. So we had night shift. We used to start working. I mean, sit in the cab at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, work continuously till 3:30 a.m. in the morning, board the cab again, be at home at 4 a.m. And from 4 a.m. we only had one laptop. So we only had one laptop. At 4 a.m. we come back, we have tea, and then we start working again using that one laptop by sharing ideas and discussing and everything. And we continued working till 11:30 in the morning. This struggle actually started our company. First client, I would like to admit, the first client that we got who paid us about $30. That $30, I think it has been the most valuable salary I've ever received.
There's no shortcut to success, right?
There's no shortcut. There's no way you can have shortcut unless you're actually born in families like Ambani's and all those big things.
Right.
Otherwise, there is no shortcut success.
So I understand that you were ambitious. So why couldn't you continue doing that in the corporate world? Continue doing that, you'd still be a vice president or a senior vice president. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, for me, it wasn't enough. I was making tons of revenue for my company. I was giving everything to my company, and I was only getting a small percentage of it, and I was not happy. Look, I mean, I'm going to admit, I have been a guy who always wanted to have a Ferrari and a Rolls Royce and a private chopper and a huge
And
bungalow
it's
and
what
everything.
happened
And
with 15 lakhs.
it's not going to happen with that. Look, I am not going to build my house on EMIs. I'm not going to buy my sports car on EMIs. I'm not that person. So, and if it had to happen, it can only happen if I chase my dreams, if I chase my own, way of doing things. It's all about taking risk in your life. If you do not take risk, if I was comfortable drawing a package of 14 LP and 15 LP at that stage and thinking I'll be a vice president and more than president and everything else, I wouldn't be there, because today I think I already have my own vice president in the company. I've already got project managers in my own company, and that has happened in the last 6 years itself. So the only way it can happen is you have to risk. You have to take a risk in your life. You have to get out of your comfort position, your comfort zone. And then the other thing is decisions, the importance of decisions in your life. You cannot take a right decision till the time you make a wrong decision.
So after you did all of this, you and your partner got your first big break with a nutrition company in the US. This was them actually asking you to come to the United States, right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that experience.
So this was the first break we got. It's actually a company based in Florida, in South Florida. We got the break from that company, and they are still with us. I would say they are the godfather helping us in this business. So they actually invited us to come and work in the United States, in Florida. Now, for us, it was nothing less than a lottery, because at the end of the day, we have never been into, we have been into a plane, we have been inside a plane, but we do not know how is it to travel internationally, how is it to travel in an international flight altogether. So the moment we got the stamp done and the approval of the visa, me and my partner, we were so crazily dancing outside the embassy. I actually had to come and say, look, by the way, if you have to do it, just do it a little far away. That's not here. It's a security thing altogether. So I said, look, I'm going to dance. I'll step away a little bit. That's fine. So we danced the heart out, because it was a big mile breaker for us. We called our families and everything. We're going to US and all those things. And from there, we have no look back, because even just to give you a little insight on where we are today, Supportsoft Technologies today is working with government, semi-government, things like Australian health services, Australian laboratories, and then the defense services, and then clinical research as well. Along with this, we are working with corporate clients who are big shots in mining industry and production and outsourcing itself. So I think we have done well since then, only because we were able to support our cause, and then obviously how we wanted to grow. So our rise has been pretty good in terms of technology. And then the second part is me as an entrepreneur, I have been very aggressive in my approach in business. When I say aggressive, it basically means that if I've got 1 million in my pocket, I do not shy away from putting in 900,000 out there in branding and marketing of the company, which is a risk. I might fail and I might take off. The best part is I come from a background of IT and ITES, IT-enabled services and operations, which has mitigated the risk in my business, because I know the in and out of my business now. Right. I know where I can fail and I know where I would pass. So that's why I have been able to invest into calculated investments, and I have been able to mitigate the risk which my business might have received if I did not know anything about the business.
Absolutely. And I think those decisions that you and your partner made over the years, it just shows that it has worked, because from getting your first $30 to, I think your overall revenue year on year is over 2 million now.
Yeah, we close to 2.8 now.
To almost 3 million then.
Almost 3 million, yes.
Yeah. So that in itself is a story, right? Have we ever thought of getting investors?
The only thing is, we really have too much on our plate. We wanted to do that. It's just that we haven't taken it seriously. We want to do it. Sometimes we have the thought that why would we need an investor at this stage? I think we're doing fine ourselves. Why would we get someone else to take the ownership and take the decision? So that's one thing. And secondly, we haven't honestly given any efforts to it as of now because of being busy. But then yes, it is on cards.
So good luck with whatever that decision is. And
thank you.
The next question on Supportsoft is what is the vision?
So as of now, Supportsoft is currently into the development of the products. That's what we are working on, white label, and then obviously on development of end-to-end products as well. The next 5 years, we don't really make a huge long-term plan. The 5-year plan that we have in mind at this stage is we are trying to move into Internet of Things. That's one thing. And then the artificial intelligence. These are the two main goals of the company at this stage.
We talked about you being a salesman at the very beginning of the show, but I'd also like to end the questions with, you as a person, as a salesman, why do you love sales? And what makes you a great person? Why do clients keep coming back to you?
One thing which I have always heard my clients saying, and they say it on my face and on my back as well, they basically say, I think he has a personality that is trustworthy. I don't, to put that in a very simple words, I don't look like a person who's going to take the money and run away. He's going to stay there. The second thing is I've always kept my promises. Always have done my best. Every business has pros and cons, and whenever there has been a situation wherein the client has been unhappy with something or the client hasn't liked something, I have done everything which I can to make sure the client goes happy from my office. For sales, you just don't have to be a sweet talker. Those things can help you sell a credit card. Those things can help you sell a car. But then when you're actually in the larger side of a business, when you're actually making a partnership with companies, and then when you're dealing with government, sweet talks don't help. You have to have that backup. So you have to have a clear communication, a vision, and on top of that, you should be able to look into someone's eyes and tell them that, look, I've got your back. If
Sales is an art more than a skill.
it's an art, and you learn with every customer.
Yeah. And I think, you've learned that art so well that, you've become who you are today. Another really important person in your life, right, who's had your back, like you rightly said, has been your father. Though he didn't have the financial freedom, what he gave you and your siblings is a freedom of the mind, right?
Absolutely. I think the best part that my father did was being ambitious himself. He always wanted, I still remember, he always, even till today when I talk to him, he's very interested in knowing what my business is doing. And even though he doesn't understand half of the technology, but I can tell you, he's a tech geek. He loves the latest iPhones and iPads and all kind of LEDs and everything. So you can find him pretty much the male version of Dadiji from Wiki Donor kind of thing. So and for 15 to 16 constant years, till the time me, my brother, and my sister, every one of us completed our school, every single exam, he had to literally walk into the cabin of our principal, the director of the school, and request him for 15 days extension or 20 days extension, so that we were allowed to get the roll numbers of our exam, and then get things going. And my school's principal, he was also generous enough. He always gave that extension. But what I'm trying to say here is, even today, when you need some money and you need those kind of things, and when you ask your friend or anyone at all, you feel a little insulted at that stage, right? Anybody does. What I know is my father took that insult for 15 years straight. I've done blunders in my life, literally blunders in my life. And if there's one person who has always stood rock solid in my support, is my dad.
So with that, thank you so much. I'd like to move on to the last section. It's called the rapid fire. First question, and I think it's a pretty obvious one, but who is your hero?
And dad and Elon Musk, both.
You want to be like Elon Musk?
I would love to be.
Who won't want to be him, right?
Who wouldn't want to be him? Exactly.
If you had the choice to live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
My home in Jaipur, Rajasthan.
What's your biggest fear?
Death. I don't want to die. If there is any kind of extension I can get by anything, I would love to do that. I am the first one to walk into doctor's clinic the moment there is a twitch here. It's like, check it, make sure my blood pressure is not even an inch high. If there is something, do whatever you have to do. I just don't want to die.
What's your favorite quote?
I'm deaf to know. That was by Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Kapil Sharma, and then Kevin Peterson as well sometimes, and then Russell Peters.
Your favorite sport?
Chess.
Okay. If you could go back in time, which year would you like to visit?
My 12th grade.
What do you like most about Australia?
Well, my clients, my business here. And
how many pairs of shoes do you own?
I think 9.
One word that describes you.
Highly ambitious.
Great. It was so lovely to have you, Saurabh. I mean, I couldn't have been happier to see that somebody I trained some 15, 16 years ago.
But yes, I think I owe you a big time as well, because I am not a huge scholar or someone, but the only thing I have at this stage is my communication, and you laid the foundation to it. You actually helped me from that stage. I think I started learning those things. So I owe you as well a big time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate each of you watching, and I hope that you will check out the rest of my videos. I'll see you next Thursday. Till then, take care and God bless. Bye.